So JavaScript comes in with some built-in objects. For example, the math object, which allows us to perform more complex mathematical operations. So math.random, don't use this for like cybersecurity things. It's like using your computer CPU usage or something. I don't know exactly what's happening behind the scenes, but don't use that for like, it's pseudo random. It's not true random. So anyway, you've got the math.random, which gives you a between 0 and 1, some random decimal, okay, pseudo random decimal, I should say. And so if you multiply that, it is normalized to 1. So if you multiply that by 50, it'll be a random number, pseudo random number between 0 and 50. Okay, and if you want it to be like an integer instead of a decimal, you'll say math.round. So it'll be either between 0 and 50. And if you do ceil, it'll be between 1 and 50. And if you do floor, it'll be between 0 and 49. Okay, so because I don't think math.random, maybe math.random can do 1. So this may actually be between 0 and 50 again, but it's very unlikely for it to be 50. Random round will give you equal chance of it being 0 and 50. But if with the floor, it'll never be 50. It just won't. So anyway, yeah, so math gives us some extra things. It's basically an object that has several different properties on it. You have max, you've got min, you've got oh gosh, I forget all of them. You've got sine, you've got cosine, tangent, you've got sine h, or sinh, as some people would call it. You've got all sorts of things on there, and you can look at the math object JavaScript, and you can look at what each thing does. You see all of these awesome operations that will allow you, or that will give you some really useful, or that are some really useful tools. It gives you logs, it gives you hypotenuse. Interesting. I didn't know of that one. That's actually kind of cool. That's actually really nice, so I don't have to deal with Pythagoras all the time. All right. Frowned. F16 round. Cool. This is actually kind of cool. So anyway, I've learned something today. So yeah, you've got math, which is an inherent object. So instead of console.log, we're going to math.random times 100. Okay, and so we're going to get a random number, including the decimals, between 0 and 100. Run. So now we've got a 78 with all of that garbage. So now we're going to use a math.floor. I would not recommend a math.floor if you're trying to make everything equal. Math.floor, that gets into statistics and stuff like that. And make sure you have your close parentheses. So now math.floor will give us an integer. However, I again recommend round, not floor. Find a method on the JavaScript math object that returns the smallest integer greater than or equal to a decimal number. Oh. Ceil. That is the ceiling. It was 43.8. So now this will give us 44. 44. Great. Find the method built-in number object that checks if a number is an integer. Math dot. Really? Wait, I don't know if this one is that parse int. Oh, number. Find if built-in number object checks if the number is an integer. Number dot parse int. That's not right. Number conversion. Let's look at this. Number. Max safe integer. Those are properties. Oh, is integer. Oh, interesting. I have known that one. Interesting. That's cool. Number dot is integer. So, shut up. 2017. And this will be true. This returns a Boolean value. If this is an integer, this will be true. Yep. So basically, if you understand namespaces, the math, number, etc., all of those are namespaces that will give you, or math is a little bit different than number, but these are namespaces that give you operations that will run on their respective object. Or they do all sorts of things. And when you're building your own object-oriented program, there are different ways to handle that. Basically, number dot is integer is supposed to use numbers, and string dot blah 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 is supposed to utilize strings, and so on and so forth. Okay, and that gets that's a little bit different than like static, or that gets into static versus prototypes. It gets a little bit more complicated as we get into classes and stuff. So, quick review. We have learned in this lesson console.log. We've learned comments, fundamental data types. They're called primitives. I don't like that they're calling them data types. They are technically primitives. Numbers and blah, blah, blah. We learned a little bit about objects, not very much, but we learned more about like the properties of strings using those objects. And then we can use the dot operator, access properties using the dot operator, and then built-in objects including math and so on and so forth. So, yep, that's it for the like fundamentals of JavaScript. And we will be moving on to the next lesson.